Have you ever felt the sharp sting of betrayal from someone you deeply trusted? It's a pain that cuts deeper than almost anything else in life. One moment you feel safe, valued, and secure, and the next your entire reality is shattered. Betrayal isn't just an event, it's an earthquake that shakes the foundation of everything you believed in. It leaves you questioning not just the person who hurt you, but also yourself. How could this happen? Was I blind? Was I not enough? These questions can haunt you, replaying in your mind like a broken record. The weight of it can feel unbearable, and the road to healing may seem impossible. But here's the truth. No matter how deep the wound, healing is not just possible, it's necessary. And it begins with understanding why betrayal feels like the ultimate heartbreak. Psychologists say that betrayal trauma is unique because it disrupts our sense of safety. As human beings, we are wired for connection. We build our lives around relationships, whether they're romantic, familial, or friendships. Trust is the glue that holds those relationships together, and when that trust is broken, it's not just an emotional injury, it's a psychological wound that rewires how we see the world. The brain reacts to betrayal in the same way it does to physical pain. Studies show that the same neural pathways activated when we experience severe emotional betrayal are the ones triggered when we suffer from intense physical injuries. This is why betrayal trauma doesn't just make you feel sad, it makes you feel shattered, unsafe, and in some cases even numb. You may find yourself going through cycles of emotions that don't make sense. One moment, you're filled with rage, wanting revenge, wanting answers. The next, you're drowning in sadness, consumed by grief as if you've lost a part of yourself. Then comes the self-doubt. You start overanalyzing every detail, wondering if you could have seen the warning signs, if you could have changed something, if you were somehow responsible. This is where many people get stuck, trapped in an endless loop of pain, questioning their worth, their choices, and their ability to trust ever again. But here's what you need to understand. Betrayal does not define you. It does not mean you were foolish, weak, or unworthy. It only means that someone else made a choice that reflects who they are, not who you are. And while that choice has wounded you, it does not have the power to take away your strength, your dignity, or your ability to heal. Right now, it may feel impossible to imagine a future where this pain no longer controls you. But impossibility is an illusion created by emotion. The human mind and heart are capable of unimaginable resilience, even after the deepest betrayals. Think about this. If your body can recover from a broken bone, your heart can recover from betrayal. It won't happen overnight, and it won't be easy, but every wound, no matter how deep, carries within it the potential to heal. The key is not to avoid the pain, but to face it, to acknowledge it, to understand it. Pain left unaddressed turns into fear. It becomes the silent force that shapes how you see yourself, how you interact with others, and how much of your heart you allow the world to see. But when you confront it, when you sit with it instead of running from it, you begin to take back control. Healing is not about forgetting or pretending it didn't happen. It's about processing, learning, and ultimately reclaiming your power. The first step is to stop fighting against the reality of what happened and start working with it. It's natural to wish things were different, to want explanations, closure, or justice. But closure doesn't come from the person who hurt you. It comes from you. When you decide that their betrayal is not the ending of your story, but the beginning of your healing. The pain may feel like a prison now, but with time, understanding, and the right tools, it will become something else. A lesson, a transformation, a source of strength you never knew you had. Betrayal can shake you, but it cannot break you. You are still here. You are still capable of love, of trust, of hope. And though the road ahead may seem uncertain, every step you take toward healing is a step toward reclaiming your life. So take a deep breath. The journey begins now. Betrayal doesn't just break your trust, it alters the way your mind processes reality. In that single moment of deception, something shifts inside you. The world you once knew, the people you once relied on, suddenly feel unfamiliar. It's as if your mind is caught between two versions of reality, the one where you felt safe and the one where everything is uncertain. This is not just an emotional reaction. It's a psychological response, deeply rooted in the way the human brain is wired. When trust is shattered, your brain goes into survival mode. The same neural circuits that fire when you experience physical danger are activated when you experience deep emotional betrayal. This is why your heart races, why your stomach sinks, why your mind replays the moment over and over again. Your brain is desperately trying to make sense of the shock, searching for answers that might help you regain control. But the problem with betrayal is that it often defies logic. It isn't just about what was done, it's about who did it. And when the source of safety becomes the source of pain, the mind struggles to reconcile the two. Psychologists refer to this as cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort that arises when two opposing truths exist at the same time. How could someone who once cared for me betray me? How could I have trusted them so deeply and not seen it coming? These questions don't just live in your thoughts. They embed themselves into your emotions, your self-perception, and even your ability to trust again. The betrayal rewires your brain's associations, making what once felt safe now feel threatening. This is why, after betrayal, many people develop hypervigilance, constantly scanning for red flags, expecting deception, questioning even the most innocent intentions. Your mind is trying to protect you, but in doing so, it may keep you trapped in a state of fear. This is why betrayal trauma can feel so all-consuming. It doesn't just hurt in the moment, it lingers. It reshapes the way you see relationships, sometimes even the way you see yourself. Many people who experience betrayal report feeling like they've lost a part of themselves, as if their identity was somehow tied to the trust that was broken. The betrayal creates a ripple effect, one that can extend far beyond the initial wound, affecting how you engage with the world moving forward. But here's something crucial to understand. Your mind is not broken. It is simply trying to heal in the only way it knows how. The pain, the fear, the overanalyzing, they are all signs that your brain is processing a deep psychological wound. And just like any wound, it takes time to heal. But time alone isn't enough. Healing from betrayal trauma requires conscious effort, because if left unattended, these wounds can harden into walls that keep you from love, from trust, from true connection. One of the most important things to recognize is that your reactions are not a sign of weakness. They are proof that you felt deeply, that you trusted fully. Betrayal only hurts this much because trust mattered. And while it may feel impossible now, your ability to trust again is not gone. It is simply in recovery. The first step in that recovery is understanding what has happened to your mind. When you realize that your reactions are part of a psychological process rather than a personal flaw, you regain some control. You begin to separate yourself from the betrayal. You start to see that the pain you're feeling is not a permanent state but a phase of healing. This is where self-compassion becomes essential. The same way you would care for a physical wound, you must care for this emotional one. The betrayal may have changed your perception of the world, but it does not have to define your future. The mind is adaptable. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, proves that with the right healing steps you can reshape your thoughts, your trust, and your ability to love again. But it starts with awareness. It starts with understanding that what you're feeling is not a life sentence. It's a temporary state of pain that you have the power to move through. Right now, your mind is searching for stability, for safety, for something to hold on to. And while the past may not provide the answers you're looking for, the future is still yours to shape. Healing begins when you decide that you will not let betrayal define you. When you acknowledge that yes, it hurt, deeply, but you are still here, and no matter how much the betrayal changed you, it does not have the power to take away who you are. One of the hardest parts of healing from betrayal is the overwhelming storm of emotions that follows. One moment, you're furious, your mind racing with thoughts of how someone could do this to you, how they could lie, deceive, or break your trust so carelessly. The next moment, you feel hollow, as if something inside you has been ripped away. Then comes the sadness, the aching grief that lingers in your chest like a weight you can't shake off. It feels impossible to control, like waves crashing over you again and again, never letting you catch your breath. This emotional roller coaster isn't just frustrating, it's exhausting. It makes you question yourself, your sanity, and whether you will ever feel normal again. But here's what you need to understand. Everything you are feeling is valid. These emotions are not signs of weakness or overreaction. They are the natural response to a deep wound. And the more you try to suppress them, the more they control you. The mind has a way of forcing us to process pain, whether we want to or not. The emotions that come with betrayal are intense because they are not just about the betrayal itself. They are tied to every expectation, hope, and belief you had about the person who hurt you. Psychologists explain that betrayal trauma creates a kind of emotional chaos because it disrupts your sense of reality. When you trust someone, your brain forms an emotional blueprint, a pattern that expects consistency, safety, and connection. But when betrayal happens, that pattern is shattered. The mind doesn't know how to make sense of it, so it reacts in extremes: rage, sadness, numbness, guilt, confusion, all at once. This is why you might find yourself swinging between emotions that feel completely contradictory. One moment, you might miss the person who betrayed you, longing for the comfort of what you had before. The next, you feel disgusted by the very thought of them. This is normal. It's your brain trying to process something it was never prepared for. But the danger comes when you start judging yourself for these emotions, when you tell yourself you shouldn't feel a certain way. I should be over this by now. I should hate them. I shouldn't care. The truth is, healing doesn't follow a timeline. There is no right way to feel. The only mistake you can make is ignoring your emotions altogether, because pain that is ignored does not disappear. It buries itself deeper, waiting for another moment to surface, and when it does, it comes back stronger. So what do you do with all these emotions? How do you move through them instead of being consumed by them? The first step is giving yourself permission to feel, not just the emotions that make sense, but all of them. If you're angry, let yourself be angry. If you're sad, let yourself grieve. The key is to acknowledge your emotions without letting them define you. You are not your anger, you are not your sadness. You are experiencing these emotions, but they are not who you are. One of the most powerful things you can do is name what you're feeling. Studies show that when we put words to our emotions, we take away their control over us. Instead of saying, "I feel horrible," try saying, "I feel betrayed, I feel disappointed, I feel lost." This small shift helps your brain process emotions logically instead of just drowning in them. It gives you space to understand that what you're feeling is temporary, not permanent. Another crucial step is expressing your emotions in a way that allows them to move through you rather than getting stuck inside you. This could mean writing, talking to someone you trust, or even engaging in physical movement like exercise. Emotions are energy. If they are not released, they become trapped in the body, leading to prolonged stress, anxiety, and even physical symptoms like fatigue or headaches. It's also important to recognize that not all emotions need immediate action. Sometimes when we feel intense anger or sadness, we want to do something, lash out, get revenge, make the other person understand how much they hurt us. But acting on emotion in the heat of the moment often leads to regret. Instead, give yourself space, let the emotions rise, acknowledge them, and then decide how you want to respond once the intensity has settled. Healing is not about erasing emotions. It's about learning how to live with them without letting them control you. The pain of betrayal may feel unbearable now, but it will pass. The emotions may feel overwhelming, but they will settle. What you feel today is not what you will feel forever. And every time you allow yourself to sit with your emotions, to process them with awareness instead of fear, you take one step closer to reclaiming your peace. One of the most painful aspects of betrayal is the way it distorts your sense of self. When someone you trusted deeply deceives you, it doesn't just change how you see them, it changes how you see yourself. You start questioning everything. How did I not see this coming? Was I too naive? Am I not good enough? These thoughts creep in like shadows, twisting the way you perceive your own worth. What once felt certain, your intuition, your judgment, your value, now feels fragile, like a reflection in shattered glass. This happens because trust is not just about believing in others, it's about believing in yourself. When you trust someone, you are also trusting your ability to discern character, to recognize love, to know when you are safe. But when betrayal occurs, it sends a message to your subconscious. You were wrong. You didn't see the truth. And that message, if left unchecked, can start eating away at your confidence, making you doubt everything, including your own instincts. Psychologists call this self-blame, and it is one of the most dangerous mental traps after betrayal. Instead of recognizing that someone else made a choice to deceive, we turn inward, picking ourselves apart, searching for the flaw that made us deserve this. But here's the truth. Betrayal is never about your worth. It is about the choices of the person who betrayed you. Their actions were a reflection of them, not you. But because the mind craves control, it would rather believe I must have done something wrong than accept the painful truth that some people simply choose to lie, to hurt, to break trust, for reasons that have nothing to do with us. The problem is, the longer you sit in self-blame, the harder it becomes to heal. It keeps you stuck, making you replay the past over and over, searching for what you could have done differently. It convinces you that if you were the problem, then you must fix it, making you susceptible to guilt, over-explaining, or even trying to rebuild trust with someone who has already proven they are untrustworthy. This is how betrayal trauma can lead to cycles of unhealthy relationships. Because the mind, in its desperate search for closure, starts believing that validation must come from the very person who caused the wound. So how do you break free from this? How do you stop seeing yourself through the eyes of betrayal? The first step is recognizing that trusting the wrong person does not mean you are broken. It means you have a heart that believes in love, in honesty, in human goodness. That is not a weakness. That is not something to regret. The world does not need more people who are cynical, guarded, and incapable of trust. It needs people who have learned from pain but still choose to believe in truth, in kindness, in themselves. Rebuilding your sense of self after betrayal starts with rewriting the story you tell yourself. Instead of "I was fooled," shift to "I trusted because I love deeply. I believed because I have an open heart, and that is a strength, not a flaw." Instead of "I should have seen the signs," try "I did the best I could with the information I had at the time." Instead of "I am not enough," remind yourself, "Their choices do not define my worth." Another crucial step is reconnecting with your inner voice, the one that got buried under doubt and self-criticism. When betrayal happens, it's easy to lose trust in your own judgment, but your intuition did not fail you. In many cases, there were signs, small moments where something felt off, but you chose to see the best in the person instead. That does not mean you were blind. That means you have a heart that gives people the benefit of the doubt, and that is not something to punish yourself for. Start rebuilding that trust in yourself by making small, confident choices. Listen to your gut on minor decisions. Affirm your feelings without needing external validation. Remind yourself that you are the source of your own clarity. Every time you do this, you take back a piece of your power. Healing from betrayal isn't just about moving on from the person who hurt you. It's about reclaiming the version of yourself that they tried to break. It's about standing in front of the mirror and refusing to see yourself through the lens of their deception. It's about remembering that you are still whole, still valuable, still capable of love and trust. And no betrayal, no matter how deep, has the power to take that away from you. One of the hardest parts of healing from betrayal is the emotional storm it leaves behind. One moment you feel numb, as if nothing is real. The next, rage surges through you, a fire burning from deep inside, demanding justice, answers, something to make the pain make sense. Then, without warning, sadness pulls you under like an ocean wave, leaving you gasping for air. This cycle repeats, sometimes for days, sometimes for months, making you wonder if you'll ever feel normal again. This emotional chaos isn't just in your head, it's your brain trying to process a psychological wound. Studies show that betrayal trauma activates the same areas of the brain as physical pain. That's why it feels like your heart has been physically shattered, like your chest is tight, like you can't breathe. Your body is responding as if you've been injured, because in a way you have. Trust is a foundation of safety, and when it's broken, your nervous system reacts as though you're in danger. The fight or flight response kicks in, flooding you with adrenaline, making it hard to sleep, hard to eat, hard to focus on anything except the betrayal itself. Your mind becomes obsessed with replaying the events, dissecting every moment, searching for answers that never seem to come. The reason you feel stuck in this emotional whirlwind is that betrayal is unfinished pain. When someone you trusted lies to you, cheats on you, or deceives you in a way that shakes your world, your mind doesn't get closure. You don't get a clean break or a logical explanation that makes sense of what happened. Instead, you are left with questions, with missing pieces, with the unbearable weight of why. And the brain hates unfinished stories. It will keep circling back, replaying memories, trying to close the loop. But here's the painful truth. Sometimes you will never get the answers you seek. Sometimes the closure you crave will never come from the person who hurt you. And that is why you must create it for yourself. The first step to taking control of this emotional chaos is understanding that feelings are not your enemy. When betrayal happens, many people try to suppress their emotions, telling themselves, "I shouldn't be this upset. I should be stronger than this. I should just move on." But emotions don't work that way. When you push them down, they don't disappear. They get trapped inside, waiting for the smallest trigger to resurface with even more intensity. The only way to heal is to feel. Let yourself grieve. Let yourself be angry. Let yourself cry if you need to. Every emotion is a message, a release, a step toward healing. One of the most effective ways to process betrayal is by naming your emotions. Studies in psychology show that when you can put words to your feelings, their intensity decreases. Instead of letting your pain overwhelm you, say to yourself, "This is grief, this is betrayal, this is anger, this is sadness." When you name an emotion, you separate yourself from it. You remind yourself that you have feelings, but you are not your feelings. They are waves that come and go, but they do not define you. Another powerful tool is journaling. Writing down your emotions helps you process them in a way that thinking alone cannot. Instead of keeping everything tangled in your mind, put it on paper. Write down the anger, the heartbreak, the unanswered questions, and then write the words you wish you could say to the person who hurt you, even if they will never read them. This isn't for them, it's for you. When you externalize your pain, you take power away from it. You give yourself a voice in a situation where you may have felt silenced. But perhaps the most important step in dealing with emotional chaos is reminding yourself that you are not broken. Right now, it might feel like you'll never trust again, never love again, never feel truly safe again. But your emotions are not proof that you are weak. They are proof that you care. They are proof that you have a heart that loved deeply, that trusted fully. And even though someone else misused that trust, they did not destroy your ability to heal. You do not have to rush this process. Healing is not linear. Some days you will feel strong, like you are finally moving forward. Other days you will feel like the pain is fresh all over again. That is normal. That is healing. Do not let temporary emotions convince you that you are stuck. Every time you choose to sit with your feelings instead of running from them, you are reclaiming your power. Every time you remind yourself that this pain is temporary, you are choosing hope, and hope, even in its smallest form, is the beginning of transformation. Betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it shatters your sense of reality. The person you trusted, the story you believed, the foundation you built, it all collapses in an instant. And in the aftermath, you're left questioning everything. Was it all a lie? How could I not have seen this coming? Can I ever trust my own judgment again? These thoughts don't just haunt you. They begin to erode the way you see yourself. One of the most devastating effects of betrayal is the self-doubt it plants deep in your mind. At first, the pain is directed outward, toward the person who hurt you, but over time it turns inward. You start replaying every moment, every conversation, searching for the signs you missed. You wonder if you were naive, if you were blind, if you were too much or not enough. And worst of all, you start believing that if you had just been different, if you had been smarter, more careful, more lovable, this wouldn't have happened. This is the trap of betrayal. It doesn't just make you feel pain, it makes you feel responsible for your pain. But here's the truth. Betrayal is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of the person who chose to deceive you. Someone else's choices do not define you. Someone else's lies do not rewrite your story. You are not the reason they broke your trust, and you are not to blame for their dishonesty, their selfishness, their failure to honor you. Psychologists call this cognitive distortion, a mental pattern where your brain tries to make sense of pain by assigning yourself responsibility. It's a survival mechanism. If you can figure out what you did wrong, then maybe you can prevent it from happening again. Your brain is searching for control in a situation where you felt powerless. But this kind of thinking is dangerous because it keeps you stuck in shame, replaying the past, rather than moving toward healing. So how do you break free from this? How do you rebuild trust in yourself when betrayal has made you question everything? The first step is recognizing that trust is not something you lost. It is something that was violated. You did not lose the ability to trust. You lost someone who was worthy of it. That distinction is crucial. Your intuition is not broken. Your ability to love is not broken. What's broken is the illusion that this person was someone they were not. And painful as it is, that is not a failure on your part. It is a reality of human nature. People can lie, people can pretend, but that does not make you foolish for believing in them. It makes you human. Next, you must begin the work of trusting yourself again, and this starts with rewriting the story in your mind. Instead of asking, "Why didn't I see it?" ask, "What does this experience teach me about my strength?" Instead of wondering, "How could I be so stupid?" ask, "How can I use this pain to become wiser, stronger, and more resilient?" Your mind is a powerful force, and the way you frame this experience will determine whether it defines you or imp. One of the most practical ways to rebuild trust in yourself is through small, intentional actions. Start making and keeping small promises to yourself. Set a goal, something as simple as drinking more water, journaling for 5 minutes a day, or going for a short walk, and follow through. These small acts of self-commitment train your brain to trust again. They remind you that you are reliable, that you can follow through, that you do have control over your life. Another powerful exercise is writing down every time your intuition was right in the past. Because the truth is, there were moments when your gut did warn you, maybe subtle feelings, maybe small doubts you ignored. This is not to blame yourself, but to remind yourself that your intuition is still there, still working, still protecting you. Betrayal didn't take that away from you. It only made you more aware of how deeply trust should be earned. And finally, remind yourself that this experience does not define your future. Just because one person betrayed your trust does not mean everyone will. Just because you were hurt does not mean you are doomed to be hurt again. But you must give yourself permission to heal, to let go of the shame, and to believe in your ability to rebuild. You are not broken. You are growing. And growth, no matter how painful, is never a mistake. Pain changes people. It reshapes the way we see the world, the way we interact with others, and, most painfully, the way we see ourselves. After betrayal, a deep wound is left behind, not just from the act itself, but from the realization that someone you trusted had the capacity to deceive you. And so a natural defense mechanism kicks in. You start to close yourself off. You build walls. Not out of malice, but out of fear. Because if you let someone in again, what if they do the same thing? What if history repeats itself? What if trusting again only leads to more pain? This is the paradox of healing. The very thing that hurt you. Trust feels like the most dangerous thing to embrace again, and yet, trust is not just about other people, it is about you. It is about believing that you are strong enough to navigate whatever comes your way. It is about understanding that you can never fully control what someone else will do, but you can control how you respond, how you learn, and how you rise from the ashes. One of the most destructive outcomes of betrayal trauma is the tendency to generalize pain. If one person betrayed you, your mind may start whispering, "Everyone is capable of this. No one is truly honest. People are not to be trusted." It becomes a subconscious belief, shaping your interactions and relationships in ways you may not even realize. You hesitate to open up. You second-guess people's intentions. You anticipate disappointment before it even arrives. But here's the truth. One person's betrayal does not define the entire world, and if you allow yourself to believe that it does, you are not protecting yourself. You are imprisoning yourself. Psychologists call this confirmation bias, the tendency to seek evidence that confirms what we already believe. If you tell yourself that people cannot be trusted, you will notice every instance that supports that belief, further reinforcing it. But if you challenge that narrative, if you start looking for evidence of honesty, kindness, and integrity in others, you will begin to see that too. The world has both deception and sincerity, betrayal and loyalty. Which one you focus on will determine the kind of life you experience. So, how do you learn to trust again? Not just others, but yourself, your instincts, and your ability to navigate relationships. It starts with small steps. Instead of forcing yourself to trust blindly, observe. Watch how people behave over time. Trust is not something that should be given freely. It is something that should be earned through consistent actions. Pay attention to patterns, not just words. Betrayal often blindsides us because we get caught up in what people say rather than what they show us. Going forward, let people show you who they are, and when they do, believe them. But most importantly, learn to trust yourself first. Many people believe that healing from betrayal means learning to trust others again, but that's only half the battle. The deeper wound is often the trust you lost in yourself, your ability to choose the right people, to read situations accurately, to protect your own heart. And so, the real work begins with rebuilding confidence in your own discernment. This means listening to your intuition when something doesn't feel right. It means setting boundaries that prioritize your emotional well-being rather than pleasing others. It means acknowledging red flags instead of explaining them away. When you start showing up for yourself in these ways, you naturally become less afraid of trusting again because you know that no matter what happens, you will not abandon yourself. Healing is not about guaranteeing that no one will ever hurt you again. It is about knowing that if they do, you will survive. You will learn, you will grow, and you will never again let someone's betrayal make you doubt your own strength, because trust is not about certainty, it is about courage. And the courage to trust again is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Betrayal doesn't just wound you in the moment, it rewires the way you see the world. The pain doesn't stay neatly confined to the past, it follows you into the present, casting shadows over new relationships, creating doubts where there should be certainty, making you question things you once trusted without hesitation. It's like a lingering storm, one that doesn't just pass but settles inside you, reshaping your thoughts, your emotions, and even your sense of identity. One of the hardest parts of healing from betrayal is the loss of emotional safety. Before the betrayal, there was a sense of stability, a belief, conscious or not, that you were safe with this person, that your connection was real, that the foundation you built together was solid. And then, in an instant, that foundation cracked. What you thought was real was not. What you believed was true was a lie. And that kind of shock doesn't just disappear when the relationship ends. It lingers in your nervous system, leaving you hyper-aware, hyper-vigilant, and deeply afraid of ever feeling that kind of pain again. This is because betrayal trauma impacts your brain the same way physical danger does. Your mind treats it as a threat to survival because, in a way, it is. We are wired for connection. Our brains are built to trust, to attach, to find security in relationships. When that trust is broken in such a deep and painful way, it triggers the same part of the brain that responds to life-threatening danger. Your fight-or-flight system goes into overdrive, and suddenly, the world doesn't feel safe anymore. People don't feel safe anymore. You don't even feel safe in your own mind. This is why moving forward feels impossible at times. Your body is still reacting as if the betrayal is happening right now. A simple reminder, a place, a scent, a phrase, can send you spiraling back into the moment of devastation, making you relive it over and over. This is not weakness. This is not overreacting. This is trauma. And trauma does not disappear just because you want it to. It requires intentional healing, deep self-compassion, and a willingness to face the pain instead of running from it. The first step in reclaiming your emotional safety is acknowledging that what happened to you was real, that it was painful, that it changed you. Many people try to minimize their emotions, telling themselves they should just get over it, but this only deepens the wound. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. And so, instead of pushing the pain away, allow yourself to sit with it. Let yourself grieve. Not just the person who hurt you, but the version of yourself that existed before the betrayal. The version that believed in the illusion, that trusted fully, that didn't have to carry this weight. That part of you is gone, and it's okay to mourn that loss. But grief is not the final destination. Once you have given yourself permission to feel the weight of the pain, you can begin to rebuild. You can start creating a new sense of emotional safety, not one that relies on other people, but one that comes from within. This means learning how to regulate your emotions, how to soothe your nervous system when the pain resurfaces, how to remind yourself that the past does not control your future. One of the most powerful ways to do this is through grounding techniques. When betrayal trauma pulls you into the past, grounding pulls you back into the present. It reminds your mind and body that you are no longer in danger. Deep breathing, mindfulness, movement. These simple yet powerful practices help rewire your brain, teaching it that you are safe, that you are in control, that the worst is not happening right now. Another essential step is learning to set boundaries, not just with others, but with your own thoughts. Betrayal often brings intrusive memories, looping thoughts of what if and why me. But healing means recognizing that not every thought deserves your attention. When your mind starts replaying the pain, gently remind yourself, I don't live there anymore. You are not in that moment. You are here. You are healing. You are rebuilding something stronger than before. Emotional safety is not about eliminating risk. It's about creating an unshakable foundation within yourself. It's about knowing that no matter what happens, you will not abandon yourself, that no one else has the power to define your worth, your future, or your ability to love and trust again. Because the truth is, healing does not mean returning to who you were before. It means becoming someone wiser, stronger, and more deeply in tune with your own power. And that is the kind of safety that no one can ever take away from you again. One of the hardest parts of healing from betrayal is the way it distorts your sense of self. The pain is not just about what someone did to you, it's about what it makes you believe about yourself. Betrayal plants seeds of doubt in your mind, making you question your worth, your judgment, and even your ability to be loved. You might start wondering, was I not enough? Was I too trusting, too naive? How did I not see it coming? The mind spins in endless loops, searching for answers, trying to make sense of the senseless. But this kind of self-questioning, if left unchecked, can become a slow poison, eating away at your confidence, your self-esteem, and your ability to move forward. The truth is, betrayal is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their choices, their actions, their character. But when you are in the depths of pain, it doesn't feel that way. It feels personal. It feels like a direct attack on everything you believed about yourself. And that is why one of the most crucial steps in healing is reclaiming your sense of self. Not as a victim of betrayal, but as someone who is rising from it, stronger and wiser than before. To do this, you must first confront the false narratives that betrayal has created in your mind. If you have been telling yourself that you were not good enough, pause and challenge that thought. Who told you that? Where did that belief come from? Because the truth is, someone else's inability to value you does not mean you lack value. Their actions were a reflection of them, not a measurement of you. But if you do not actively challenge this belief, it can take root in your subconscious, shaping the way you see yourself, the way you carry yourself, and the way you engage in future relationships. One powerful exercise is to rewrite the story you tell yourself. Instead of saying, I was betrayed because I wasn't enough, try this. I was betrayed because this person chose dishonesty. I was betrayed because they lacked integrity. I was betrayed, but I am still whole. I am still worthy of love and trust, and I refuse to let their actions define my self-worth. This small shift in perspective is everything. It allows you to reclaim power over your own narrative, to see yourself not as broken but as rising. Rebuilding self-worth after betrayal also means reconnecting with who you are outside of the pain. Trauma has a way of consuming your identity, making it feel like betrayal is the only story you have. But you are more than this experience. You are more than the pain. And one of the most effective ways to remind yourself of that is through intentional self-care, not the surface-level kind, the deep, transformative. Self-care in this context is not just about pampering yourself. It is about rebuilding the relationship you have with yourself. It is about keeping promises to yourself, setting boundaries that protect your energy, engaging in activities that make you feel alive again. It is about remembering what brings you joy, what excites you, what makes you you. Because when betrayal takes something away, the most powerful thing you can do is reclaim more of yourself in return. One of the most overlooked aspects of healing is the role of self-trust. After betrayal, many people lose trust not just in others, but in their own ability to make good decisions. They start doubting their own judgment, questioning whether they can trust themselves to see red flags, to choose the right people, to protect their own hearts. And so they hesitate, they pull back, they live in a state of emotional paralysis, afraid to move forward because they no longer trust themselves to get it right. But here's the truth. You can trust yourself again. You are not the same person you were before the betrayal. You are wiser now. You have learned things you didn't know before. You have insights that will serve you moving forward. And the way to rebuild self-trust is not to wait for some magical moment where you suddenly feel ready. It is to start showing yourself that you are capable, one small decision at a time. Set a boundary and stick to it. Listen to your intuition and follow through. Speak up when something doesn't feel right. Each time you do this, you are proving to yourself that you can trust your own voice, your own instincts, your own wisdom. And as that trust grows, so does your confidence. Healing is not about erasing the past. It is about refusing to let the past dictate your future. It is about choosing every day to see yourself not through the lens of betrayal, but through the lens of resilience. You are not just someone who was hurt. You are someone who is reclaiming their worth, their power, their identity, and no betrayal, no matter how painful, can take that away from you. Healing from betrayal is not about erasing the pain. It's about learning how to carry it differently, how to make peace with it without letting it define you. When you reach this final stage of healing, it doesn't mean the memories disappear or that the scars fade completely. What it means is that the pain no longer controls you. It no longer dictates your self-worth, your relationships, or your ability to trust again. You are no longer just surviving, you are truly living again. But how do you know when you've reached this place? And more importantly, how do you get there? The answer is both simple and complex. You decide. Healing is not an external force that happens to you. It is a choice you make every single day. A choice to stop revisiting the past like it holds the key to your future. A choice to stop defining yourself by someone else's betrayal. A choice to reclaim your power, your peace, your sense of self. And this choice is not made just once. It is made over and over again until one day you realize the weight you've been carrying is no longer as heavy as it once was. One of the most powerful indicators that you have healed is when you can think about what happened without feeling consumed by anger, bitterness, or resentment. This does not mean that you justify or excuse what was done to you. It does not mean you forget. It simply means that you no longer allow it to poison your present. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It only hurts you. True healing is when you free yourself from that burden, when you choose peace over anger, growth over victimhood, and self-love over self-doubt. Forgiveness in this sense is not about the other person, it is about you. It is about deciding that their actions no longer have the power to control your emotions, your self-worth, or your future. Forgiveness does not mean reconciling. It does not mean giving them another chance. It does not mean pretending that what happened didn't hurt. It simply means you are no longer willing to carry the pain for them. You are no longer willing to let their betrayal shape your life. One of the hardest but most freeing realizations in this journey is understanding that closure is not something you get from another person. It is something you give yourself. Many people spend years waiting for an apology that never comes, for an explanation that will never make sense, for a sense of justice that will never arrive. But real closure happens when you decide that you don't need any of that to move forward. You don't need them to acknowledge the pain they caused for you to heal. You don't need their regret for you to reclaim your happiness. You don't need them to do anything, because your healing is not dependent on them. You may wonder, but how do I truly move on? The answer is by living. By stepping into the life that is waiting for you beyond this pain, by focusing on what brings you joy, on the people who uplift you, on the dreams and goals that are still within your reach. The best revenge, the greatest triumph, the ultimate proof that betrayal did not break you, is to build a life that is so full, so vibrant, so you, that the betrayal becomes just a chapter in your story, not the whole book. Healing is not linear. There will be days when the memories resurface, when old wounds ache, when you question if you've really moved on, and that's okay. Progress is not about never feeling pain again. It's about knowing that when it comes, it doesn't define you. It's about recognizing that you have the tools, the strength, and the resilience to handle it, that you have already survived the worst, and now you are choosing to thrive. So take a deep breath. Let go of the need to have all the answers. Let go of the desire to rewrite the past. Instead, focus on the only thing you can control: what happens next. You are more than what happened to you. You are more than the betrayal. And now it's time to step forward, not just as someone who is hurt, but as someone who has risen from it, stronger, wiser, and completely, undeniably free.